panduan penggunaan Zoom, dan bagaimana cara menggunakan fitur penerjemahan di dalam Zoom. Zoom User Guide and how to use the interpretation feature in Zoom. Izinkan kami dari Virtual Event Organizer Bahasa Global untuk memberikan panduan singkat. Please allow us from Virtual Event Organizer Bahasa Global to provide you quick user guide. Bapak Ibu sekalian, mohon dapat membaca dan memperhatikan panduan dan pengaturan dalam Zoom meeting kali ini. Dan yang terpenting, mohon pastikan telah mengunduh dan menggunakan aplikasi Zoom versi terkini supaya fitur penerjemahan atau interpretation dapat tersedia dengan baik di aplikasi Zoom Bapak Ibu. Ladies and gentlemen, please be mindful of the house rules during this Zoom meeting. And most importantly, in order for the interpretation feature to be available in your devices, please make sure that you are using the updated Zoom application. Bapak Ibu sekalian, bila Bapak Ibu mengakses Zoom meeting ini menggunakan laptop atau komputer, di kanan bawah layar sudah ada icon bola dunia interpretation. Mohon diklik dan dapat dipilih bahasa yang ingin didengarkan. Kami menyarankan untuk tidak perlu memute original audio. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are accessing the Zoom meeting using a laptop or a computer, on the bottom right of your screen there's a globe icon, interpretation. Please click and select the language that you wish to listen, and we would like to recommend you to not mute the original audio. Bila Bapak Ibu mengakses Zoom meeting ini menggunakan handphone, fitur penerjemahan juga tersedia. Di layar utama aplikasi Zoom, di kanan bawah ada 3 titik, mohon diklik dan dipilih language interpretation. Mohon dipilih bahasa yang ingin didengarkan, dan terakhir klik dan di kanan atas untuk mengaktifasi layanan. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are accessing the Zoom meeting using a mobile phone, the interpretation is also available. On the Zoom application screen on the bottom right of your mobile phone, there's a 3 dots. Please click and select language interpretation. Kindly select the language that you wish to listen, and last, please click done on the top right of the screen to activate the service. Bapak Ibu sekalian, guna memastikan kelancaran pertemuan hari ini, host dan co-host berhak melakukan mute audio atau stop video para partisipan yang tidak sedang berbicara saat mereka tanpa disengaja menyebabkan gangguan terhadap acara. Ini dilakukan untuk menjamin suara pembicara dan juru bahasa tetap jelas. Terima kasih atas kerjasama Bapak dan Ibu sekalian. Ladies and gentlemen, please note that to ensure the smooth running of today's meeting, the host and co-host reserve the right to force mute the audio or turn off the videos of participants who are not speaking that may be unintentionally causing disruption to the meeting. This is to ensure that the audio of the speaker and the interpreter remains clear at all times. We thank you for your cooperation in this matter. Have a productive meeting. Terima kasih.
Hi, everyone. Please give me a sign if you can't hear me. Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be hosting this session. Today, we have some wonderful speakers. And just a little disclaimer to start. I'm the only one who doesn't have a Zoom virtual background. And that's actually because my laptop is too old and, I want to be sustainable. So it's been 5 years and I'm still using my laptop, and you should all do the same. And so the laptop doesn't support Zoom virtual backgrounds. That's why you have this really boring background. Anyways, my name is Jana. I'm the founder of Cyclos. We're a startup that delivers refills of consumer products to door. And we really just wanted to have a very laid-back conversation about sustainable lifestyle. What are the challenges? What are the benefits? How are people actually implementing it so that the audience can actually take something very concrete away from it? We have some amazing speakers, amazing guests. First, we'd like to introduce Suzy Hutomo. She's the chairperson of the Body Shop Indonesia. I'm sure you all know what the Body Shop Indonesia is, but they have wonderful products. They really stand for environmental sustainability and have some great initiatives, which I'm sure Suzy can tell us a little bit more about. Suzy has already been doing this for, she started Body Shop Indonesia 30 years ago, and she's a big environmental activist, and has her own blog and an Instagram account, and really tries to inspire young people to live a more sustainable lifestyle. We also like to welcome Nadine Alexandra Devi Ames. I should have checked whether it's Ames or Ames. Really sorry about this. Everybody always gets my name wrong, so I should have checked this with you. She's an environmentalist, actress, and also an Orangutan advocate. She's been very active in campaigning for the conservation of the environment, forest, and endangered lifestyles, and is also an advocate of and follower of the planetarian diet. So a diet that aims to reduce carbon emissions, which I'd love to learn more about. Last but not least, we have Ernest Lehman. He's the CEO and co-founder of the Ecosystem. The Ecosystem is an amazing startup that does a lot around waste management and also sustainable living. I'll just tell you a little bit about what the Ecosystem does. One thing that they can do for you if you live in Jakarta is actually pick up your recyclable trash, and they'll take care of it being recycled. There's also several drop-off points, including at some MRT stations. And you can also, buy home composters there. Before that, he was at P&G and has a really interesting journey. Welcome all. We're really excited to have you. I want to start first off by asking Suzy, what for you, what you say, is sustainable living, and how did you get started with this?
Okay. Okay, unmute myself. All right. For me, I've always been sort of as growing up, I've always been quite close to nature. Although I lived in Jakarta, we'd always spent a lot of time in Puncak, because I lived in Jakarta downtown. But a lot of my time, my parents, this is why I believe parents have a key role to play to connect children to nature, was my parents, who were originally from Makassar. So they love the ocean. So we'd always go out to the ocean to fish. And then weekends, we would always spend in Puncak, spending a lot of time. So although I was a city girl, I spent a lot of time in nature. So in a way, that was the basis of, how later I became an environmentalist, because I realized, especially when I went off to go to school, overseas, and then came back and saw how much things have changed since I left Indonesia. I realized, that we all needed to be environmentalists for Indonesia.
Mm-hmm. It's so interesting. My dad, he went to Bali when he was 25. He's now 79. So it's a long time ago. And we went to Bali 3 years ago. And he was like, Jana, I really want to show you Kuta. It's so gorgeous. It's so beautiful, when I was in Kuta, we were just living on this farm because there were no hotels. I'm like, Dad, you're gonna get a heart attack when you go to Kuta. So that's really interesting. And Ernest, I'd love to ask you the same question. I think you had a fancy job at P&G, and then you gave it all up to do something that's super risky and doesn't pay that well, and it's a really hard job. And I'm wondering, what actually inspired you to do that?
Okay, so I think the journey about my sustainable lifestyle or journey is starting when I was in the college. So yeah, as we know, we try to enrich ourselves with the knowledge, become more educated people. And what I learned that there is one subject that emphasized that nowadays and until the future, go and move forward to the future, we cannot only count only on the economical metrics when doing something. We need to be balanced, the triple bottom line, like not only the economic but also the social and environment metrics. So I think that's one of the trigger, like people always talk profit, people, planet, as well-educated people that have privilege to go to college. I think this is one of my ideal job to how to create the ideal working environment. So this is always being something kept in my mind back then, and also my co-founder is how if we after graduated we can realize and do that job. But when we graduated, we realized that there is no prominent company. We are still inexperienced for starting our own company. I also will not come from the family with the silver spoon, so I have to also collect some fund for starting my journey in the sustainable startup. So that's why I go into the Procter & Gamble at that time. With always in my mind, I will start my own journey one time. So after 4 years of working there, and yeah, I start my journey. And here is I try to grow and develop the ecosystem to realize my goal.
Okay. I think moving a little bit to like what, I know the ecosystem does a couple of things to allow people to practice sustainable lifestyle at home. Maybe Nadine, you can tell us a little bit about and I think the others can jump in on what are some of the things that you actually practice at home, like the lifestyle changes that you make in order to be more sustainable.
Well, first of all, I just want to say hi to everybody, including you. I think you just referred to yourself as Yana instead of Jane, and I should have asked you how to pronounce your name.
It's Yana.
Hi, Yana. I should have asked. So, but yeah, it wasn't like one day I woke up and all of a sudden I had my life was 180 degrees completely changed. And I was all of a sudden super, super sustainable. And I think that even now, with all the changes that I have made, there are still many improvements that can be made. But it has been a really, really long journey for me. And it started with, so as you had mentioned before, I'm an orangutan advocate. And at that time I was, being introduced into the world of conservation. And I woke up one day thinking well, if I want to protect the orangutans, what choices am I making day to day that are impacting them and impacting their habitats? And I had just watched Cowspiracy. It had just come out at that time, and I was a big meat eater. So my dad's British and my mom's Indonesian. And Sundays were, the quintessential British Sunday roast type situation. And meat was such a big part of our culture and our family life and our traditions. And I remember even in the past asking my dad, because my grandfather on my father's side was a butcher. So that's how that line or that lineage is. And I remember as a kid asking my dad, hey dad, as a joke, what if I became a vegetarian? And my dad was like, oh, your grandfather would be rolling in his grave. And so it had never actually crossed my mind. And then I was, 20 or 21 years old, and I thought oh my God, how can I be talking about protecting the orangutans if the choices I'm making day to day are destroying their habitats and destroying their opportunity for life. And so, watching Cowspiracy, I realized I got to start cutting back on meat. And so it was Meatless Monday started becoming a thing. And then after a while, I had this massive, I guess, environmental anxiety and this freak out that I wasn't doing enough. And so I went, I became vegan, and I was vegan for a while, for 1.5 years, but it wasn't sustainable for me personally, for my own health. And so, since then it's been a balancing act of giving and taking and understanding what I need for my body to thrive and what I need to do to ensure the environment. I'm contributing to the environment. And so, as you had mentioned, I guess now I've adopted this planetarian diet, which sort of happened naturally. without too much thinking, like I'm not eating red meat anymore. I eat fish once in a while, but my diet is mainly plant-based. And then, not buying so many things is a really good sustainable choice. Like you're sticking with your old, your 5-year-old laptop, and like that's amazing. I know a lot of people who would be like, no, I want the newest, like latest thing. There's other certain measures we've taken at home. Say, for example, like switching out detergent with the soap nuts, just like little deep, like little choices that we can make day to day. That I think we underestimate how much of an impact it actually can make.
It's really interesting. I just want to add on the on the vegetarian part, right? I'm vegetarian, and my family eats meat. In Germany, we eat meat 3 times a day. So for breakfast, you have sausage. For lunch, for dinner, right? It's really crazy, right? And then I became vegetarian. My parents were not amused. I would spit out meat, and then eventually, like, they just had to give in because it was just like, okay, what are we going to do with this child? And the interesting thing is, later I was living in Senegal, and there I actually had to eat meat because every single dish has meat in it. But the interesting thing is, you have a huge plate of food that 10 people will eat from, right? You usually eat from one plate, and there's like one chicken wing in the middle, and everything is cooked in it, or like one fish, like a small fish. But the amount of meat per person is so little, actually, that yes, okay, you eat it for every lunch and dinner, but it's so little. It's more like a seasoning, right? Versus in Germany, where it's like, okay, here's a steak, there's one potato, and then there's like 5 peas, and it doesn't make sense. And I think that's when I realized, you don't necessarily have to go like all out and be like, I don't eat, like, if you cut down from 3 times a day to once a week, then going from once a week to 0 actually is very little impact, right? The majority of the impact is made by going from 21 times a week to 1 time a week, right? That's you're 95% there. So and I think that's important, because I tried being vegan, and I realized I became so obsessed with cheese. Like, it was crazy. I would people would be like, I would be looking into the into the emptiness, and they'd be like, Jana, where are you? I'm like, oh shit, I was just dreaming about cheese, And then I realized, okay, I just can't cut out cheese, like, not fully. And I think that sometimes it's about those choices. I'd love the others to chime in on like what they do, what you guys do to implement sustainable living, and maybe also like how you make those trade-offs, or how you like, at some point it's going to be hard, right? And like how you decide, how far you go, what you do and what you don't do. Anis, Susie?
Okay, so I think from my what I've done in terms of the starting about more sustainable lifestyle is first thing first, I'm very conscious buyer and consumer, so I don't purchase anything lots. Maybe in this digital era, people doing a lot of purchase with e-commerce, but I can count with only one my hand fingers, like how many times I purchase something from the e-commerce. So that's the first things first. First thing first is refuse before I reduce or reuse. I refuse what I have to purchase. So that's why my clothes or everything that I use is very minimalist. So if I don't need to buy a new one, I can borrow with my friend or just use the old one. The last time I used laptop is like for 8 years, I think, before I change into the more proper one when I jump into the ecosystem. So I think that's the things that I really do, really use. This is very simple things that I think everyone can do it without any additional effort. We just need to control ourselves before doing anything. As you know, Yana, I think when I in Bandung, I even living a house and also office working space is in the same places. When I go into Jakarta, since I wasn't born in Jakarta, so I was from I'm from Bogor. So when I started the office in Jakarta, even I start how I can start my life and my office activity in the same place. So minimum carbon, very minimalism, very pragmatic. So this is how I do. Second is managing the waste. I think waste we cannot eliminate it from our life, because waste is the post-consumer products. So as long as we do consume a lot, everything, even when we do every activity, there is always waste that we produce from our day-to-day activity. So it's how we ensure it can be managed properly. So yeah, that's why I also start ecosystem. It's quite simple for me because I run ecosystem and we provide service for the waste management, and I just use the service from my company for doing that. Yeah. And then I think the last thing is to consume less meat. I'm not into the level that committed with the full veggies or become a vegan or even vegetarian. But I just start small, like even in my office in the ecosystem, we always prepare our lunch for everyone, but it's only vegetarian. So yeah, we don't consume meat only for lunch. It is how we can make it scale. Scale means everyone can try more veggies, but it's not extreme level. Like you need to cut off all the meat. No, I think what I think is not the exclusivity, but inclusiveness. Like if more of my employee or my team in the ecosystem can get free lunch, but can consume more veggies, this is not only impact to the environment, but also to their health of the body, their freshness, doing the activities in the office. So I think that's one of the encouragement that I also do in my office. So I think that's the three things that very relevant what I was and still doing, and I'm doing right now.
Okay. Wow, that's wonderful. Yeah, for me, I've been at it for quite a long time. So the first thing for me was a lot of it was just understanding about waste and carbon footprint. That was my big startup. It's my starting point. So waste was my first concern, and a lot of it was plastic waste. So I started doing, waste management in my home, doing composting for more than 10 years now, and seeing that number drop. So that was really very encouraging. Then the next is I went into my energy consumption because I'm a presenter for Al Gore. So the whole carbon footprint and electricity. So I started investing in solar panels. I've been doing it for more than 10 years, I think, and seeing the prices go down and seeing my electricity bills go down, really thrilled about that. And then obviously food, so the same. I am mostly plant-based, with some cheese. I'm still vegetarian, and because my husband is not a vegetarian or a vegan, so I was vegetarian for quite a long time, and then I decided that I needed to also think about him because then I couldn't go out to eat with him, and that was a bit of a strain. And so I decided I shall eat occasionally seafood. And I do believe, as you said, that we need a lot of imperfect environmentalists in this world, many millions, rather than one or two really perfect people, because the impact that we need to make is really on the lives of millions and millions of people. If everybody just had meatless Mondays and took care of their trash and started not to consume stuff, then that would be a huge impact. And the last thing, I mean, not last thing, but since the pandemic, I've been growing my own food, and then I've cleaned up my closet, and I discovered I did not have to buy another piece of clothing. So the tailor is my best friend. I found a tailor nearby. Like, this outfit I'm wearing was one that was too small, but I have extended it, in the front, so I got lots of new clothes just by shopping in my own closet. I extended things and stuff, and so it's been fun, and I've been doing thrift shopping, which is great, so just going. And then I've got some electric vehicles, invested in electric cars, and they work really well. So for me, because in a way I can't afford things, I want to show that if you can afford them, you should, because somebody has to pay, right? I mean, if nobody bought these things, who's going to buy the panels and all of this? Yeah. So that's how I got on my journey. Just keep going and keep going.
I wanted to touch a little bit up on that point. I think you mentioned a couple of your or a number of the initiatives or practices that you do seem like, you know, your electricity costs go down, right? But then there's an investment. So I'm wondering, like, I feel like there's this myth that, or in my mind, like a myth that, you know, sustainability is only for the privileged, is only affordable to rich people who can, you know, afford to go eat at Burger Greens every day. And I'm wondering what your view or what your response is. Maybe there's people in the audience, you know, that, you know.
Yeah, I mean, eating plant-based food is the cheapest thing. Apalagi orang Indonesia, oh my God. You eat a pecel, cost you almost nothing. You know, it's peanuts and, you know, and then we now have in the whole household, including my household assistants, everybody, they have to eat plant-based twice a week. You know, we eat plant-based most of the time because my son became 100% vegetarian. He has a degree in philosophy, so he didn't want to, you know, so he's, you know, 90% plant-based. So what happened is actually costs have gone down because eating Asian food, plant-based is really, really inexpensive. And if you're creative, you can do a lot. You know, you can do a lot with tofu, with mushroom. Oh my God, they taste so good. Know how to, you know, if you look at my blogs, you in IG, you can see we make rendang, we make we're coming up with the gepuk very soon. We got baso, we have meatballs, you know, well, mushroom balls. They're really good and really cheap. And I've made recipes from banana skin. You know, we don't throw the banana skin away. We chop it up and then we mix it. Oh, it tastes great. Spaghetti with banana balls.
Oh.
It is the best. That's one of my favorites. So actually for eating, it's less money, but you need to be creative. You need to have time. In my opinion, you have to have time. It's not money that you need, it's time, because you need to learn, you need to be creative, to think, you know. And in solar panels, it's not expensive. Nowadays, you know, anybody who is living in Jakarta, having a decent middle class income, you can afford it. You know, and the return is now around 6 to 7 years. You know, if you buy a motorcycle, you know, versus panels, you've got one car, let's say, you want to buy another car. I don't want to buy another car. I'd rather buy a solar panel, give you back money, rather than buy a second car. They'll cost you depreciation. You never get the money back. You know, it just look good, you know, what for? You know, so if you think the other way around, it's actually fantastic to invest your time. It's a time and effort, if you ask me.
Yeah, I actually agree with this because I feel like, for example, like the whole idea of like fashion, right? Like it's so easy to go on like Zara.com, right? And it's like, you know, probably 2 hours later, you know, you have everything like, there, right? And it's obviously a bit harder to find secondhand clothes or to go to the tailor. Sometimes not even time, it's like convenience, right? But ultimately, it is so much cheaper, right? Like if you just like,
yeah. The point is, I always say, I mean, I say this when people ask me, well, how do you do that? I said, well, because if you want to be environmentalist, you have to, dalam bahasa Indonesia, harus mau repot. You have to repot because you're doing it for the planet. For now, yeah. I mean, my son said, kita nggak bisa kan nggak mau repot terus. I say, you're right. Eventually, this will become mainstream. But in the meantime, we have to be repot. We have to find, we have to be creative, we have to, you know, develop some of our own solutions like Ernest did. I mean, he's got a company that does that, you know, so that's what I believe. You just have to have this motivation to do it, you know, and, you know, you become really creative. One thing I found, I've become so creative. Yeah.
That's nice.
One of the benefits of being sustainable.
Nadine, you have something to add?
Yeah, you know, I think like this is such a such an important point that I think Bu Suzy, you've touched on, is that like it's not about it costing more, but it's about it taking more of your time to do, right? And it's true. I think you do become more creative. Like I'll go into the back, into our back area and look at the stuff, and I'm like, okay, what can be improved here? But I think, I just think about like some people that I know that are like they just cannot find the time, and that's the loop that we're stuck in, right? Like the lives that we lead to now are just like 24/7. You're always online, like, or you're always being like overstimulated and oversaturated with all this information that like you need more, you need to look more, you need to, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that causes a lot of anxiety in a lot of people, like, oh my God, how do I achieve this ideal lifestyle the quickest way possible? Because all of this stuff I'm doing is taking up all my time. And yet I wanna look and be a certain type of way. And I think that part of this like sustainable movement is also kind of moving away from being a slave to like social media. I think that's a really, really like big one, because and just like moving away from this super like connected world, where everything is like on demand and everything has to be instant, and you convenience trumps its sustainability, or whatever. So I think that I think about how in the past when I was facing that environmental anxiety, and I was thinking like I have to do this perfectly. I think that burden makes a lot of people shy away from making any small changes in their lives, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that yes, you need to be creative and it's going to take time, but if you don't have that time now, you can still make small changes, right? Like if you still need to buy packaged food, it's okay, don't beat yourself up over it. But if you can make a trade at the end of the week, oh, it's the weekend now, I'm going to spend the time to cook, that's already going to be incredible. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think what Susie was saying was just really reminding me of what I was experiencing a few years ago. And yeah, I just think that this idea that, oh, to be sustainable or to be environmentally friendly, it's this unattainable thing. I think we need to start demystifying that. Mm-hmm. And making it super accessible for everyone in the process.
I think one thing I want to add as well is so I go a lot to this village in Sukabumi, Chimaja, and a lot of people really come from very humble backgrounds. And the truth is, they have to wear their clothes until it's torn apart, right? Until it has so many holes that you absolutely cannot fix it, because they don't actually have the luxury to be like, oh, there's a hole in my pants, let me throw it away and buy another one, right? So actually, there's a lot of sustainable practices that now I guess the middle class or upper class will practice that low income populations anyways have been practicing forever, right? It's what are you going to do? Throw things away as soon as there's a hole. So I think that's another thing, that there's actually a lot of things that are already being done, right? But I wanted to touch up on another point, right? So I don't know if you've seen that, but there was this tweet a while back where BP asked, it was basically the first step to reducing emissions is to know where you stand. Find out your carbon footprint and share your pledge today. So this was from BP. And then somebody famously retweeted, I pledge not to spill 4.9 million barrels of oil into the Gulf of Mexico. And it's a great pledge. I pledge it too. Every day I'm like, okay, let me not spill 4.9 million barrels of oil in the Gulf of Mexico. But I think the point that this guy who responded was getting at is look, you can ask me to, turn the light off, to go vegan, but ultimately, there's only so much we can do. And I think sometimes, sometimes it just feels like it's a drop in the ocean. And ultimately, there are these huge actors, from governments to big corporates, that really have to do something, and putting the blame on individuals, sort of the burden on individuals, can detract from the bigger picture, right? And so I wanted to hear your points of views on that, on how do you balance that, right? How do you not go so micro that it's you're missing the big picture?
Anybody first, or should I go?
Go ahead, Miss Susie.
Right. Okay. I think we need everything. I think Anita Roddick, the founder of Body Shop, very famously said, I mean, quoted maybe, I don't know. But the thing is, if you think you have no effect, try being in a room with a mosquito. She used to famously said. So every time people say, "Oh, I feel so, tired, and then I'm just by myself, and people are not changing," what do I? She's always said, be the change. If you were in a room with a mosquito, would you feel the mosquito? Yes. So she said, start there. So that's the first thing. So that really gave me the energy just to do things by myself. I started doing composting, and I got my neighbors in. I just start things that I felt that I had to do something. And then on the corporate side, I think that there are people who are doing good things, and I try to be in that sector who are doing good things. And obviously, the circular economy model is the model. I believe more than the Planet People Profit, the circular model is really fantastic. The donut economy book, oh my God, that was brilliant. So that's the way that I will lead my own organization. And also because I'm lucky enough to be part of this, the Body Shop brand, who is also moving in that direction. Because it's a bit, it's a bit longer for them because they're a bigger company. I mean, my company is a bit smaller because it's Indonesia, much more controllable. So it's a pathway. And I think that if you do one thing better every day than you did yesterday, that is good. Because people ask me this, and I always say, this like, I'm like, if today you do something that you didn't do yesterday, today you refuse a straw, and which you didn't yesterday, good for you. And then be aware, just build your funnel, just be aware of BP, and like you said, I mean, for me, reducing my electricity, for me personally, that's a big deal. Because I am really anti-coal myself. I'm really hugely anti-coal and anti-fossil fuels. So anything I can do in that direction, I will do it, in whatever way I can. So I guess for me, it's you start, because that will ease your anxiety. I mean, I know what you mean, Nadine, about being in this digital world. Maybe I'm a bit older, so I can ignore it a little bit more. But I think that when you have so many choices, sometimes you just need to step back and decide for yourself, which path do you want to take, and then as you sort of do more stuff, you kind of reflect and say, is this the one I want, or is it that one, or is it that one? I know it's huge, the amount of choices out there, but if you always take one day to reflect, like maybe like, I don't know, a Friday or a Saturday, that's the day to reflect on choices. I think that for me helps a lot, because then I have a day when I decide, okay, I have a choice, and I made a declaration on Instagram, I'm not buying a single piece of clothing for the next 12 months. So that was very clear. I said, that's good. I made a commitment. That makes it easy for me to go down that path, for instance. Stuff like that, just to olah diri, kalau orang Indonesia bilang, like what Ernest also say, it's to do with inside. I think we make the choices we make, and then just start. Never mind what people say, it might be something tiny, but it doesn't matter. Reduce paper bag a day, that's, or I mean a plastic bag a day, that's plenty as well. That's why I tell people, just start. Yeah.
And Ernest, what's your view on this? I think because you also worked at a big corporate, right? Like, and then you left. So like, what sort of your view on this whole idea of like individual versus like government or corporate responsibility?
Yeah. Okay. I think this is all about the inclusiveness of the both for the individuals or for the corporates. Maybe starting from the individuals, this is how we can start imperfectly. If I quote like what Bu Susi said, this is I totally agree, because sometimes people think a sustainable lifestyle is very difficult, it's very hard, because they think it has to be executed perfect. Is this if I want to be green, I want to be perfectly green, let's say, or I will be less green versus others. This is something that I disagree with that kind of point of view. We can start small. that this can be very fast, like maybe inside ourselves, like conscious buyer, conscious consumption, or anything that we can do, starting small. So that's for the individual. But for the corporate point of view, I think the difficulties or the challenge of the corporate or the conventional corporates doing is they are doing that for so long time, and their metrics of the KPI of the worker is only for the driving the sales, driving the shipment, driving the getting the market share, and until they are maybe not an expert of doing or sustainability stuff, because what they do is maybe selling products, or maybe providing the services that they usually do, but they don't have any expertise inside, like how the ideal ideal process should be done, and if it needs to be changed into more sustainable chain or sustainable operation, it needs a lot of investment. It needs a lot of transition. I think that's one of the challenges that more people think like your company is less green, but if the company asks, like, okay, help me how to make it more green, that will not sacrifice our costs, our investment. I think less people or less organization can provide that kind of services. So I think that's one of the challenges. This is how can maybe that everyone have the role. The government have the role to keep the regulation that executable, that executable and guide all the corporates move, or individuals also move into the right direction. But in the same time, the corporate challenge is more how to get the enabler for doing that. Then I think all of the stakeholders have the push for that. Let's say it's the more individuals what more conscious about the environment or sustainable living, the trend of the products will also change, and the direction of the company also will be changed. If the government have the regulation, if the waste that produced from the plants X, Y, Z, that doing things, it have to be reduced maybe from the environment, certain percent. I think this is also the direction that how the operation should be changed in the corporate levels. And then in the same level of the corporate, this is also more startup. I know there's a lot of sustainable startup, even like Cyclus doing right now, or even in the ecosystem, like how we can create the alternative that is not painful for the economical metrics. It is still lucrative, but also have the another impact. So I think it's a lot of stakeholders need to play, not only the corporate itself, because I mentioned, the expertise is not doing environmental or sustainable operations. What they do is for a long time is selling software, selling services, selling products. I think there is a lot a push. I think all the criticism or the push in the social media or complaints, both from the inside the company, from the employees, or even the consumers, is also help for them to push on that to that way. So that's how my point of view. Because back then when I was work in the corporates, I also asked about that, and they give me the role of the sustainability role for that. And I think that's one of the challenges. If I want to do that, there's like a lot of investment. We cannot convert it and shut down all the operation cells, and there's like all people, employees counts their livelihood in the corporate. So I think there's a lot collective effort needed for doing that.
So thank you so much for this. I think it's super interesting. It's like some of the questions I'm really grappling with a lot. I wanted to also hear Nadine's point of view, and actually, I wanted to have it a little more specific because so I know that you work a lot on orangutans, and they're threatened at the current rate. I'm just reading this on Google. Sorry, I don't know all these facts by heart, but at the current rate of killing, orangutan populations will be extinct in 50 years. And so, of course, we can do all these small things, right? Like don't eat Nutella, right? But the truth is, the individual action are not going to be fast enough. In 50 years, orangutans will be gone. So the way I see it is like we need government action, right? Like it's just there is no way around it. And so I'm wondering how you see like this whole like government and individual action playing together, like because I think that's one of these points where it's like individual is not going to be enough to to really save the orangutans, right? So I'd love to hear your view on this question.
Yeah, you know, so the organization that I volunteer with, Borneo Orangutan Survival Foundation, they were founded in 1991. And until I think maybe 10 years ago, they were primarily just a rehabilitation center for orangutans, because the founder found that walking through like some villages and towns in Kalimantan, that there were just baby orangutans being locked away in people's backyards and cages and stuff, and or babies being thrown into the bin because maybe the mother orangutan had been shot, you know, was a pest or something. And so that's how BOSS started out. And you can see there, it's the action of an individual person who then like branches out and then creates this organization to take on this like massive project of rehabilitating orangutans who have been taken out of their natural habitat and then preparing them to be released back into their natural habitats, right? And the reason I'm telling you all of this is because, ironically, maybe I don't know when this started, but ironically, certain government organizations then reached out to BOSS to start taking care of sun bears and to start taking care of orangutans that they had found, right? And so over the many years, now BOSS became the organization that was relied on by the government to help with the rehabilitation and conservation of orangutans and also subsequently sun bears. So I think that, you know, and then this also links to a couple of things that Bu Suzy and even Ernest were saying about how it's the individual's, not choice, but it's the individual's like actions and motivations that can then inform and change policy, that can then inform and change companies and the choices that companies make and corporations make. And I do think that fundamentally, like we as individuals, we can vote with our money. Where we put our money is where we invest in the ideas, in the policies, in the things that we wish were more mainstream, right? And then we just have to hit that critical mass point where eventually the corporation or the government in question then turns around and says, okay, look, this is what the people are asking for, and we can no longer delay this. This poses the problem of greenwashing for sure, right? Because then you see like now everybody's talking about sustainability, and like the reason companies are greenwashing and pretending to be sustainable is because they're seeing that the people are demanding it. So now it just requires that extra step of us being more, or of demanding more transparency, or of asking more critically, like, okay, so you're saying you're sustainable, but what does that exactly mean? You know, and then sifting through the companies and stuff and brands that tout in sustainability, but may not actually be doing it. So I think the fact that there are companies willing to do greenwashing is just a really great example of like the power of the individual and the power of the individual's like their spending power. We vote with our money, and we vote with our money so much that companies are now running for the hills trying to greenwash everything and pretend that they're the most sustainable ones out there. So I think that unfortunately, like, of course, you know, companies with profit in mind are only going to do it for the facade, right? They're going to only pretend to be greenwashing. But I think the trend is good, right? Because out of all these companies, so many now are touting sustainability and eco-friendliness. There are going to be that big handful where they are genuinely committed to having zero carbon footprint or doing something beneficial for the environment. So I don't think it's not like, you know, there's that saying where you pull an arrow backwards and you shoot it and it's a straight line. I don't think it's ever going to be like a direct, clear and straight progression. It's going to be up and down, but I think the trend is generally going to be upwards. So I definitely think that the government needs to be doing more. You know, having worked with people who are right in the thick of conservation, I can see that they have such a struggle in just changing the minds of people in government, because unfortunately, I think we have seen that most of the time governments are in bed with big corporations, right? This is just this just happens to be a fact of life. But you know, I think people now are bored of hearing the words, "Oh, we're spreading awareness," you know, but it is still a necessary part, because the more people are aware, the more that they spend their money in places that they feel are more worthy. They're like the government and the corporations, they're going to have to eventually listen. It's not easy for sure. It's a lot. It's like very like snail paced, right? But I'm optimistic.
That's honestly, I think it's a really beautiful way of looking at greenwashing. That greenwashing actually means that, like, okay, it's not ideal, but actually it still shows that, like, we have some power, and of course we need to educate people, you know, to know what greenwashing is. And so actually we only have like 6 minutes left, but I really wanted to have a quick answer from everyone on like one of the greenwashing things that infuriates them the most, and maybe a little tip on consumers, like how to avoid falling into that trap, right? Like how not to fall for the greenwashing.
I'll just go quickly first.
Yeah.
You can go on to the. I think that obviously, like big fossil fuel companies that, like you had mentioned, BP, who put the onus on the individual, like, oh, what big climate change, like what big climate or environmentally friendly change are you going to make? I think that's just laughable. And I think that whoever tweeted that tweet, like, I pledge not to spill 4.9 million, whatever, into the ocean. Yeah, that's great. One of my really pet peeves is like fast fashion brands or any brands that tout a material or a fabric as being sustainable or like organically grown, but it isn't. Or I think my biggest pet peeve is probably vegan leather, but it's actually just plastic. And I think that's one where, because I know vegans or vegetarians who have thrown away their leather products that they bought maybe 5-10 years ago. They've thrown them away.
That lasts forever.
Yeah,
like I still have my mom's cowboy boots, and they're fine, you know, exactly. From the 70s.
Exactly. That's so incredible, right? But they've thrown it away because of ethical reasons or environmental reasons, and then they've had to buy something to replace whatever they've thrown away, and they've gone for something that's vegan leather. And there are such things, but they're so rare to find. And so I think you shouldn't fall into that trap. I think that if you have to buy a pair of leather shoes instead of pleather, they'll last a lot longer, as you've just exhibited. So that would be for me.
Susie?
Yeah, I think if you want to avoid greenwashing, it's necessary to know more. You need to do quite a bit of research about what it is. I mean, you know, to be an environmentalist, you basically have to know what you buy, who's behind the product. I mean, and what are they doing about it? A lot of it is waste, energy, water. Those three things alone, I think, will tell you quite a bit about. And what's their journey? Because sometimes, you know, out of a sudden, this company pops up and says, oh, we're doing blah, blah, blah. But, you know, a year ago, they didn't do a thing, you know, and in fact, they were not very good. All of a sudden, you know what happened. So it's necessary to do, a bit of research to understand, you know, their history and really what areas they're looking at, so that, you know, like, are they doing it just to be trendy? I mean, we're changing all the leather to pleather or something. Well, that seems a bit cosmetic, you know. Is it cosmetic, or do they have real processes? If you don't have real processes, it's, doesn't work. You know, we all know that.
Yeah.
I mean, we in the business will know that. And I'm like, oh, these don't have the process, so forget it. It's just one-off. You know, stuff like that. I think, again, I think once we get into this conversation, a lot of it is really having the commitment and the time and the energy to devote to being sustainable. I mean, that's my point.
And Ernest, last point.
Okay, I think most of the typical of the greenwashing company have been mentioned. I think one thing that we need to be very also careful, like the reason behind we make a decision for choose a brand. I think this is something quite wrong if we only count it whether it's green or not, whether it's not sustainable or not, because every corporate, every products, if have a sin that they will produce a carbon emission, that they will produce the waste from the execution. So I think that's the first thing, that we don't choose everything because this is not green or not in terms of the company. So I think that's the first one. Second is the typical of the company. There is like a company that exactly cannot be say green. Is it like, let's say like a fossil fuel company? It's totally even the nature, if the industry itself, the product itself is something that against with the I think the what if environmental do. So I think the nature of the products and service that provided in the company is also we can make us realize like, whether it is greenwashing or not. But first thing first is do something that is useful for you, because whether it is green or not, there is always a sin, like I mentioned again, the waste and the carbon emission that will be produced during the process of the products before we consume. So I think that's we need to be realized. There is like a total not totally green, as long as it is needed for you, as long as you are conscious before the consume or purchase. I think it's already a little bit contribution on how we can minimize the impact of the greenwashing that make our decision making process.
Okay, great. I think my last point on this is like, I feel like there's a lot of times also in Germany when they have like, this is a super sustainable beef, right? But then you look at it and it's like, yeah, it's grass fed, but the amount of space you need actually means that the carbon emissions are like 4 times as high, right? For this green beef. And you have people like, oh, this green beef, like, I need as much as I want from it. So I think there's certain things, especially with eating like meat, fish, whatever, where it's like, you can only make it a tiny little bit more sustainable, but it's still actually really bad to consume, right? So there is no way but to cut it down, right? You should not have like 2 closets full of sustainable clothes, because like clothes are just always going to be unsustainable, right? To have, of course, you can't walk around naked. Like, I'm not saying walk around naked, like, but ultimately try and have less clothes or go secondhand, right? So I think there's just some things where it's like, it's just not going to be, it's always better to have less, right? Even of sustainable things. Anyways, I wanted to have everyone give this last message, but unfortunately we can't really. We have a quick game that we're actually going to play with the audience. So if the audience can go on kahoot.it, the link here, and then we'll just be sharing the PIN number. It's like this game is like a quiz game, and Agis, yeah, that's the number. Sorry, let me, how do I put to all? Wait, Samira, Agis, can you send the number to everyone?
Yeah, I can put it in the chat box, or they can just input it at www.kahoot.it.
So just go on kahoot.it. Wait, how do I go to all? Everyone in meeting. 893-273. Yeah, so just join us. It's like a quiz. You just yeah, here's the number. You can put it in, and then we'll start a quiz, and afterwards we'll have Q&A. I'm gonna wait like 1 more minute. Oh! By the way, I forgot to announce the winner will get like a free 150K order from Cyclus if you are in Jakarta, greater and Jabo area. Then you'll get a free order from Cyclus for the winner. Please message, if you are the winner, message Samira afterwards to claim your prize from Cyclus. So you get like detergents and stuff. Okay, Agis, I'd say let's start. Okay, so this is about how much do you really know about the environment, and we'll start 3, 2, 1. Okay, which activity has the highest environmental impact for an Indonesian household? Here are the answer options. flying, using electricity, driving a car, or overall consuming things. You have quite a bit of time to answer. So the right answer is using electricity. So most of you thought it was consumption. It's not. Next question. Which of the following falls the worst for the environment? Cheese. Oh my God, I hope it's not cheese. I love cheese so much. Beef, tofu, or chicken. I'm literally so obsessed with cheese. I think it's, I think as a German, it's very hard to give up. Cheese is like, cheese for me is mama. It's beef. Great, most of you got this right. Leni is leading. Which food products are most likely to be thrown away? I think this is globally, not for Indonesia specific. Fish and seafood, fruit and vegetables, meat and poultry, eggs or dairy products. Okay, most of you got this right as well. Great. Leni is killing it today. An increase in disease could possibly be reduced by better waste treatment, urban sprawl, recycling programs, finding renewable energy resources. Actually, I know that COVID was more caused by eating fats, and vegetarianism helps as well, but better waste treatment is the right answer. Next question. What happens to plastic waste when left in the environment? There's no such thing as plastic waste. All plastic is recycled. It is biodegradable material, so it eventually disintegrate. It never fully goes away. It just breaks into little pieces.
Do you get extra points for answering quickly?
No, I don't think so. Honestly, the answer time is like, I hope it would be a bit shorter. But yeah. Okay. It definitely, plastic does not, biodegrade. It literally just goes into microplastic. That's why the ocean now has, okay, we have another one. Which country held a funeral for the first glacier lost to global warming and climate change? Russia, New Zealand, Sweden, or Iceland? That would have been a sad funeral. The right answer is Iceland. Oh, Leni, you're losing. Barney, you're winning. Do you know how many liters of water is required on average to make a pair of denim jeans? I don't know the answer, but you should really be wearing your jeans for a long time. Also, if you speak to Levi's and Stella McCartney, they actually never wash their jeans. You don't need to put it into the laundry until it's really dirty. You can just rinse it and just remove stains. You can read up on this, but basically washing jeans is really bad. It is 10,000 liters.
Nudie Jeans also does the same thing, and you can get free repairs for life. Just throwing that in there.
Right. Okay, Regina's winning. Which famous cartoon characters have partnered with the EU to campaign against plastic pollution in the oceans? I hope it, I feel like it should be SpongeBob SquarePants. I think that would be the most logical.
Is the answer in the picture? Because
yeah, I guess that was a bit bad. Regina's still winning.
no.
On average, how long is a plastic bag used by a person before being thrown away? 1 week, 1 day, 1 hour, 12 minutes. Honestly, the answer times are too long. Next time we need to make it like shorter. It's too easy to Google it. 12 minutes. Yes,
The 12
it's
minutes one
short.
really stands out because it's so specific.
Yeah. Okay, Ati is winning. Oh my God. Okay, last question. This is like a very interesting race. Based on a survey by YouGov Cambridge, I actually do think you get points for being fast. Which country has the highest percentage of climate deniers? This is among 22 countries. Saudi Arabia, the US, China, or Indonesia? I would definitely think it's the US because that's what you think about. But it is Indonesia.
Oh no, isn't that depressing?
It's really depressing. Okay. Okay, Ernest, 8. Wow, Ernest, you're not doing very well. Regina, woohoo! Congratulations. Oh no. Ernest, sorry. Ernest, you're number 3. I thought you were number 8. No, number 3. Great. Okay, you know what? I think all of the 3 people can get a prize from Ciclos. So all of you email Samira. I put the email in there. We have your name, so you know if other people are trying to claim the prize, we're not gonna let you through. Okay, now we will actually be answering questions. I somehow cannot see like the Q&A section, so please just answer. You can answer you can write questions in the chat. I don't see any questions in the chat yet. Guys, I'm sure that you have some questions. Okay, no questions so far. Or am I missing that there's a Q&A thing here, like a special place for Q&A?
No, I think it's all in the same chat box.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I don't see. I don't really see. Wait, my biggest pet peeve is FMCG companies putting recycle logo in their sachet packaging, but then it's saying only recyclable by technology, which most people can't afford. Guys, please write any questions that you have. I think until questions come in, I know there's actually 61 people in the session, so I'm pretty sure that some questions will come in. I think until then, let me just ask some more. Let me just ask some question. Susie, can you tell us a little bit about some of the upcoming or current campaigns from the Body Shop that people can actually take part in?
Okay, right. So if you're a customer of the Body Shop, you know that we take back all our packaging. So we'll give you points for every packaging return, and we collect about 1.5 million pieces of packaging from our customers every year. So it's about 22% right now, the return rate. And then considering that people probably have 50% of what they bought still on the table, you know, so we think this is a really good return rate right now. But we're trying to go a bit higher. And very soon at the end of August, September, we're going circular. So we're taking all these packaging that we've got back from our customers, and they're going to become products. We're going to have mirrors and little soap dishes done here in Bali by our partner, and they're 100% pressed. And also, again, recyclable, 100%. There's no addition of any other plastic, only one single type. So that's one. And then we've also going to recycle our PET into bags that we will, again, give back to the consumer as loyalty gifts or any kind of gifts. And stuff from the Body Shop now, all kind of like boxes, everything there, and all going all circular, so mostly recycled. So that's the good news. We're going circular. Basically, our new store will be also very interesting when you see it next year. Lots of new initiatives on circular material. And also, yes, like Ciclus, we're partners because we've got a refill program coming up in September. Yes, you buy like you. We buy the and then
isi ulang.
product.
Right.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first question is to Susie.
Yep.
In general, how many years do you need to implement a sustainable lifestyle?
I think as we've discussed, you can start very small. It depends what you mean. I don't think there's a level. Oh, now I've got a sustainable lifestyle. I don't think so. So I think that if you already begin to carry around your own foldable bag, your own implements, your own apalagi straw, and you refuse those things, to me, you're already implementing a sustainable lifestyle. And if you carry around your own water bottle, even better. To me, that's the qualification. Simple. You're already doing that. And then the next is what to do with all your Gojek orders. That's the one that I have a peeve about for all young people who like to order, takeaway. But those are the things. So once you start thinking and talking about them and start small steps, I think you're an environmentalist already. You already got a sustainable lifestyle.
Okay. Okay. No, I'm not gonna answer because we don't have so much time. So, all panelists, lifestyle changes are more than changing our own lifestyle. How do you affect others? How do you affect those around you to be more sustainable, especially when you're living in a community that doesn't think about sustainability a lot? I'm going to ask, because you just answered a question, I'm going to ask Nadine to answer this question.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. I'm gonna backdrop this with my story about my dad and how, big meat eater. And so like you, Yana, like for a few years, I go to these family dinners and everybody would be up in arms, like, what are you going to be eating? You can't just eat vegetables, like that, you're not going to survive. And so it was really, really rough for me. And I would try to convince my parents, like I would bring them the data, I would bring them the information. And my dad is actually really, really big on conservation as well. He loves the WWF. And so I thought, like, this is so incongruous if you have this, on the one hand, you have this belief that you want to save the animals, but you still eat meat. Like, I kind of find those things incompatible. But I spent a lot of time trying to like push this idea onto my family. And what happened was we just became really, really divided. Every time we would sit down for dinner, my parents live in Bali, so I would go and visit them. And every time we would sit down for dinner, it would be a little bit of a war zone because, we would be bickering to each other about what we're eating. And it just became really, really not harmonious at all. So I stopped doing this, I stopped trying to change their mind. I stopped trying to change their habits. And I just started living my life. And I started doing things differently. I wasn't eating meat and, I kept doing whatever it was I was doing. And over time, they just sort of fell into it by themselves. Like my mom called me up and she was like, oh, I've stopped eating chicken now. Or my dad, he'll call me up and be like, oh, I've stopped doing this now. And so they can see by your example, the things that you're doing. And, at that time, there was this quote by Rumi that really, really struck me. And I might get it a bit wrong, but it was more or less like, before I was smart and I tried to change the world, and today I am clever, so I'm changing myself. And I really held on to that during this time. And I mean, the results speak for themselves. These people around me who were so against it to start with have now slowly but surely made their own changes. So I think that I think it's important to do that, to do it for the environment, and to just do it with conviction, and people can see that.
I actually also want to answer the question because I think that it's not about a sustainable lifestyle, but actually we had a lot of super heated arguments about race and racism in Germany and how racist a society can be. And I realized that I was like really I started these conversations from this like high ground. And then when I started saying, I read this book and I realized that a lot of my thought patterns are really racist because, we grow up in a society where you only see white people, like on the magazines, you only see white people, being politicians, whatever. And you have a certain view around, what other races are. And I started leading from this. And here is like how I try to change. I'm not perfect. I'm trying my best. Like I still have these sexist, racist, whatever thoughts in me and thought patterns, and I'm trying to change them. And that is much more effective than being like, well, that is so racist. I can't believe that you said that. But more like, hey, you know, I've been thinking. So sometimes that actually helps coming from a place of humility, where you're like, I'm struggling too. I'm not perfect. Like I fly. It sucks. Anyways, so and another question is, what's your opinion on high price plant-based food? Somehow these are kind of innovative and looks more tasty, but they're also very pricey. I'm just going to let answer whoever wants to answer this question.
Oh, fine, I'll go.
Yeah, go.
And if anybody wants to add, I think that, you know, with anything new, because there's so, like, I guess the demand is still very little, like, the costs are going to be a lot higher to produce those things.
Mm-hmm.
And I also find them really pricey, and I don't often buy them because I make do without these meat substitutes. There are times when I am craving like fried chicken, or like I'm craving like a meaty flavor that I'll go out and like, I guess, treat myself. But for the most part, I don't really incorporate too much of it into my diet because it is pricey. I think that is generally the case here in Indonesia, but I have been, like, you know, for example, I've been to the US and I've been to the UK, and I've seen they have such a huge variety of plant-based alternatives. And because there's such a huge variety, the cost is no longer, you know, so it's no longer so pricey. So I think that, like, you don't have to eat those meat alternatives to have a more planet-friendly diet. But I think it just helps that it's there in case, you know, once in a while you want to cheat. But I don't think you should fully rely on it anyway.
Susie, I know that you have a lot of like recipes and stuff. So I feel like you have an answer to this question too.
For me, it's just like having pricey meat food or others. So you don't have to buy them if you can get your own, you know, you get your own, you can cook your own, and you can use nangka, especially Asian food, so easy. I mean, Western food maybe it's a bit hard, yeah. You still need the sausages or whatever, I don't know. But Asian food, oh, nothing. I mean, tahu tastes great. Tempe, oh my God, tempe goreng is like my all-time favorite. I mean, I have given up before, I don't know, 15 years, 20 years, never missed it a single day, you know. So tempeh is fabulous. You could have baked tempeh, you know. So to my mind, they are expensive vegan food, and they're great if you want to spend money. Why not, instead of spending money on expensive, you know, meat? So go find expensive vegan food. That's good. But on a daily basis, oh my God, you know, check out my channel. You find lots of recipes.
Yeah. I also, just to add to this, right? Like in Germany, like tofu and tempeh is crazy expensive, right? Because there's not many people eating it, right? Or let's say like hummus, right? If you go to Arab countries, it's dirt cheap. Like everybody eats it.
Very cheap. Yeah, just
in Indonesia, you know, to eat like hummus is super expensive, right? So it makes sense, like that, you know, if you want to eat like salami from Italy in Indonesia, like it's gonna be expensive. So I think sometimes you just have to accept that, you know, if you eat like crazy foreign food, you know, it's gonna be expensive, and you don't have to always do that, right? So I think comparing, like, I feel like you know, hummus should be compared to like salami, right? It shouldn't be compared to like, you know, tempeh. Then there's another question. Do you have tips for average people who want to change to a sustainable lifestyle? What's your biggest challenge at your first step doing sustainable living? Ernest, I'd love to hear your answer.
Okay, I think for this part, we don't like we cannot push everyone to have like a sustainable mindset or something that have a consciousness like as we do. If we want to make people inclusive into this direction, into this lifestyle, we need to adjust it with something beneficial for them. Let's say, for example, about the plant-based. Not being a plant-based is something expensive. Everyday purchase it into the plant-based restaurant, that they need a lot of cost for doing the operation with the very limited demands right now. We can start it cooked by ourselves, and the benefit is in terms of the economics. As I mentioned, I do it also for the lunch in my company, and I cut costs only 25% compared with the spending it with including meat into the my company spending doing the lunch with the veggies. On top of that, we also can give a good impact into the healthy. So it's not always come with the environmental point of view, but also other point of view in terms of the economic or even in the healthy lifestyle. Like my co-founder is very it's a avid runner and cyclist. So he got the positive impact by doing more phages. His heart rate, his endurance of doing sport is higher. So it is also another perspective that we can add on to influence people, or even doing a refill like what Cyclus doing. It is more is cheaper compared with the purchasing its other, or even a simplest way of doing waste management, maybe with the ecosystem. You can less cost and cannot segregate the waste into a very details, and it is just executable for everyone people. So in terms of the inclusiveness, we can to adjust the point of view, not only for the environmental side, but other side that's matter most. If it's not more, it's more in the healthy level, healthy. But most people in Indonesia is more economic and price conscious about that. We can add on that. That based on my point of view and my experience doing the sustainable lifestyle, doing it is more cheaper compared with the doing a normal lifestyle, because I spend less in term for the foods. I spend less for the purchasing stuff because I'm more conscious about that. So I think that's the point of view that we can do and emphasize.
Okay, great. Okay, guys, we're unfortunately I'm keep on getting messages from the moderator like it's done, yeah, stop the session. So I guess we're gonna have to stop the session now. Thank you so much for all the speakers. I think this was super interesting. I definitely learned a lot. And just thank you all for being here. Thank you for the audience for your questions and you know for playing in the game. I think that like what really I think for me the main takeaway from the session is really that you know sustainable lifestyle is accessible, it's important, it's implementable, and we just have to you know take the first step. You know you can check out Nadine's Instagram, you can check out Susie's blog, you can check out Ernest's company, the ecosystem, just to you know get started. And I think the best time to start is you know today. Yeah, I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference. And again, Nadine, Susie, and Ernest, thank you so much for taking the time. Have a lovely weekend. And also, thank you for ICEF for organizing this. Oh my God, so embarrassing. Thank you so much for ICEF for organizing this. You're the best.
Thanks so much, everyone. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.